Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on John Bush. John Bush was famously from Armored Saint and then Anthrax and back to Armored Saint happily. How you
Yeah.
doing today?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. With COVID and you're being locked down, you guys had just released a new album, Punching the Sky, right? Yeah, Punching the Sky, like last
2020.
year-ish,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then you just released
October.
something new though, which is live.
Yeah.
Is that to hold people over, or what was the plan on that one?
Well, it's funny because it almost came out to the day that Punching the Sky did a year later. No, the attention with the live DVD and record, Symbol of Salvation in its entirety, we always intended to put that out. We just had to edit it and listen to it, and because we had a bunch of shows that we had to choose from, and in the end, the bulk of the show of the DVD portion is from the Gramercy Theater in New York, but there's some other snippets from other shows. I'm not going to lie. I rarely lie. But
The
it
podcast.
was right. It was always something that we intended to get out. It was just a matter of when it was going to come out. And actually, I think the timing of it was pretty good. We did that tour, I think, in 18 or 19. Now it's a little bit fuzzy, but like I said, when we knew we were going to get around to it, would we have liked to get it out sooner? Probably not, because Punch in the Sky came out in 20. So I don't think
Right.
we really wanted to get it out before that. So a year after that was fine. And the irony is actually next year we're going to re-release the first three records on Chrysalis because we got the rights back to those, and
Awesome.
Metal is able to license them now, and they're going to put them out again on vinyl, and it's going to be great. So we're going to have product out, even though it's old product, next year. So we've been busy in terms of keeping things out, especially with Punch in the Sky. We made 4 production videos, which was crazy and kind of unheard of, certainly for our band.
Right.
We never did anything like that. Most we did was 2 per record, and we made 4, and it was awesome, and they looked amazing. So we kept ourselves in the public eye, even though we weren't actually touring and performing.
Well, that's why it's interesting because some bands are totally like holding back all the product. Like once, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse came, they're like, nope, nothing goes out until we can tour with it. And some people are like, I'm going to keep something going. So it's always kind of curious to see where each band is going with their thought process. Or some of them are just like, I do it, I put it out, I just keep moving. I'm not really thinking about it.
My personal opinion on it is, why are we going to refrain from getting people to hear a new record from ours when all they could do, especially in that first like year, was kind of hunker
Mhm.
down? So like, to me, that would be oh,
Better.
like evil. Hey, here we have a new record, but we're not going to let you hear it, even though you're going to spend a bunch of time at home. Well, that makes no sense at all to me. That's exactly the time then they need to listen to
Mhm.
music and put on headphones and check out of the world. So it was very logical. I get it if you're some huge band, maybe the Foo Fighters or whatever, Deftones, or somebody who is a big band where you really everything is correlated to a tour and it's all
Mhm.
very one supplements the next, and I understand that. But for a band like Saint, it just doesn't make sense to do that. It makes more sense for us to say, here's our record, listen to it, and when we get around to touring, we'll play those songs.
Well, you guys have your own plan, not plan, but unplanned plan for your whole career. You've been able to be in a band with all your best friends. Clearly, you guys have crushed it. And then at one point, you obviously had some tragedy, and then the band dissolved or broke up or went on a hiatus. Then you got to do the Anthrax for many years, and then that ended. You had another hiatus, and you got back with the band again. And you guys sounded better than ever. So it's not like the band broke up and you had a bad terms. It was like, it's like when you're dating and you get married. I was on a break. You know what I mean? You get that
Right,
thing where you didn't have
right,
to leave, and it's nice because there's nothing weird about it.
right. Yeah, I mean, yes, that's my certainly optimistic way of looking at it. I tell people that for me, I just look back and say that's the way it went. And to me that makes it easier to cope with it, because um, life, it does that. Yes, maybe in a perfect world this would have happened and then that would have happened, but who's living in a perfect world,
Right.
especially in the music industry? So as far as I'm concerned, here we are, a band that off and on been together for 30 to 40 years, and the bulk of the guys in the band known each other since we were in our adolescent years, 8 or
I
9
love
years.
hearing that. I just gonna add that about bands that are still together, best buds, still rocking it out at this age. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to candy coated too much. We don't always have the same philosophies these days, and a perspective on the way the band should go. And what? So what? Here's a bunch of guys in their mid to late 50s. We expect us to be all in a complete sync as far as how things should go and how they used to go and how they work now. It's just not realistic. But that being said, I mean, we made like some really great albums. I thought Win Hands Down was an awesome record. And now Punching the Sky even takes it to another level in the last like 7 years. So, I mean, for a band to be able to do that all these years later, and then kind of, go back and do one of its classic records and make a live album from it. I mean, I'm super grateful. I think things are cool. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, like Armored Saint is cooler and bigger than ever. Maybe the only exception could be is like when we first signed to Chrysalis and put out March of the Saint 1984 and Can You Deliver was on MTV. Other than that, I mean, really, we're better and cooler and bigger than ever, So all these years later, we're pretty lucky to be able to say that. So
At this point, yeah, I think at that point you were a new band, so it's just you're like out there. But at this point, you guys, a lot of bands like now you're like on your legacy run. There's like I think it's like 3 stages of a band. You get first is you're trying to build, and then you're the middle round, and you're trying to keep the maintain to decide who you're going to be, and then that either determines you to don't make it, or that's it. You're secured. You can keep going what you're doing. That's the last lap, and that lap, like the Rolling Stones are still in that last lap for the past 50 years. You know what I mean? It's like the legacy thing where like you can be who you are, and you don't have to do certain press, or you don't have to do videos. You can do what you want, and you're happy with what you're doing.
right.
So you're secure in the legacy of who the band is, not like a legacy tour. You know what I'm saying? But it's more
Yeah.
like you're established, and that's it. You're who you are.
Well, again, I can't speak for everybody in my band. I can't speak for all musicians. I only know the way I interpret it and the way I deal with it. And for me, it's just a simple acceptance of what it is. I've made all these records, and I made a bunch of Saint, I made a bunch of Anthrax. It's funny. I always make the joke that when I do like an in-store signing, and sometimes people will come with like a stack of stuff I made, with some B-sides and videos and DVDs and and I'm like, wow, look at all this stuff. I mean, so I'm grateful for it. Did Armored Saint get to the level of success to, like a band like Metallica? Well, no, nobody did. But
Right.
And when I joined Anthrax, was that a bit of the decline in the 90s? Yeah, it was. I'm always candid about my career. I just am. I
That
feel
was
like
about you.
well, and again, this is just the realities of it all. I'm a person who kind of creates a bunch of lies or baloney or fictitious world of what people think it was. I know what it is. A lot of people know what it is. So, and I'm just happy and grateful that I'm able to make all this cool music and still be able to sing at a high level and, whatever. Like I don't have 20 gold records, but it doesn't matter because I know the fans that love the music that I've made love it, and they're affected by it, and that's really the most important thing. So
Well, I know you're still doing this you can still play out and do this. A lot of bands that may have platinum albums may not be able to do it, past 30 years.
some of
So
them didn't do it after 3 years. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
And the fact that your band's still got together, of course you're going to disagree, but it's like being in the same job for like 40 years. You're going to disagree, or being married, but it's you guys can still talk though. A lot of bands can't even talk after like 2 or 3 albums. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Those are huge things to have as a band. You guys are still on the same path, and talking to each other. Even get talking, you're making albums. And your voice is just as strong. The players are playing strong. The albums are as strong. I actually think stronger.
yeah,
As you guys are getting
me
tighter.
too. Yeah.
I think I do want to step back. I'm not like I said. I didn't want to go big into Anthrax because that's all over the internet. But being a huge fan of you all these years, I listened to you. It was also around the same time. I think actually when they switched singers with you, I think they had just signed a big deal. I believe Anthrax, right?
Yep. Yeah,
And
with
then
Electra.
I also believe around the same couple of years, my mind's getting hazy too. I'm like most same age, close to the 50s. That Motley Crue had a big deal too, and they replaced Vince with John, so it was very similar.
Well, it
And it,
was it was exactly this very very similar, like you said, and
okay,
it was
so
the same label. It was Electra.
oh,
Although
it
I
was
think
like
Motley was with Electra, so they just kind of renewed their deal. But Anthrax was with Island, then went to Electra. So
but it was the
Electra.
same person in charge of it. That wasn't it. It was Sylvia, or whatever her name is the one who didn't like either of you guys.
Well, that was after the original deal was when Bob Krasnow, I think, was still the head of Electra Records, and I'm sure that when Elektra gave a bunch of money to Motley and they gave a bunch of money to Anthrax, the last thing they wanted to hear is both those bands are changing their lead singers. It's like, what? No. So, but again,
I think it was a
that's
power move. I think it was great. And you're looking back because they both got together. But even if those bands stay together, those big deals right now. I mean, we know looking back now in history and grunge, that didn't mean anything. Those bands could have imploded also because
yeah,
of the market.
it's
It had
funny.
nothing to do with you guys.
It's funny. Some people have asked me recently, what do you think would have happened if we would have stayed together into the 90s when everything was changing? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, most likely I would say we would have struggled because most bands did.
Totally.
It's just reality. Maybe not in Europe because Europe kind of still stayed true to it. And we were actually kind of rising a little bit in Europe, but in the States, and I know this because I was in Anthrax and I know what it was like
Right.
to kind of continue to still fight in the 90s and stay relevant and convince the public. And it was hard. I mean, a lot of bands they were just eliminated. Let's
Well,
just
yeah.
face it.
Well, Anthrax was a little, couple higher up in the rungs at least, so they had a little bit of a foothold,
For
you know.
sure. Sure.
And but that was it's crazy. But you guys actually and Molly, both singers, both very similar, raspy, strong singers coming in, totally replacing the higher voice singers. Not knocking any other singers either. But I'm saying the similarities of even vocally coming in, and both of you guys getting heavier at the same time, and
Yeah.
probably if the band's probably some of my favorite albums with both of those. Those are the strongest to me albums coming
Well,
in.
yeah, it's funny. I just actually watched The Dirt for the first time just the other night. Actually, it was pretty funny, and
It's
just
entertaining.
looking back on those times and those times, when Karabi came in, and it was entertaining. It wasn't some of the best acting in the world, but it certainly
No,
was
he's not too
entertaining.
happy with how he was represented in that either. I heard.
I'm sure he wasn't, but and it's funny. I was actually impressed that Nicky was willing to reveal so much about his drug circumstances because it was pretty prominent in the movie, and it was ballsy for him to say, here, this is what was happening, because it was a lot to reveal.
It is. I think when you have somebody, that's been an icon like that, almost going back to the days of Johnny Thunders, like they're known as much drugs at some point as their songwriting, and then to come clean and then say to everybody who's been, like so into them, saying, I made a mistake. You could probably create
Yeah.
more, or you could probably do this is pretty rock and roll. It's pretty heavy. You know what I mean? To turn around and stop and say, you know what? You could do better. So
Yeah, well, better is questionable. I think it may be different, but let's face it, there's a lot of
I
people
think
that
doing life without heroin is better. So I'm
well,
gonna
I
stick
mean,
firm on
yeah,
that one.
yes, logically it would be. Of course, you're slamming junk and you're on the
Right.
verge of death. I'm sure that that's not the most productive situation for anybody. Even if you are an artist, because I know art is connected with that. And hey,
Right.
but again, those that music was made. A lot of artists made a lot of music
Oh
when
yeah.
it was drugs, and I did as well in my I always say, come on, the 80s, man. It was Armored Saint, it was LA, it was heavy metal at its highest. It was cocaine was running rampant. Yeah, I was doing it.
I don't
Of
even
course.
talk about those. Those are assumed like regular. In radio, you used to how are you gonna play this single? You show up with a suitcase full of cocaine for the radio guys.
Wow.
I'm not even counting that.
We didn't do that because we didn't have the money
What if
to
it was?
be able
Oh
to
my God,
be
if you
able
had the
to
money
do
to do
that.
that, some of these bands are like, just keep the money. You don't even need to do anything. You can afford that. Yeah,
And
but
the cocaine.
right, exactly right.
Yeah.
But the heroin thing is what more my sticking point. I'm like, that's a rough road. It doesn't seem good at any point ever.
Yeah, I
So
know. Luckily, I never got into heroin, and I'm happy about that because
couldn't do that. That's crazy. But yeah, so when you did that album, it was so good, and you guys stayed steady. And I think when the band kind of dissolved, you kind of stepped aside and a little back and forth. It really was nice in the press that it wasn't a lot of mudslinging. I read Scott's book. So it was kind of nice. I mean, I'm sure there's a little animosity in certain issues, but not everything has to be public. Not everything has to be out there. So to you, I'm just saying kudos. I'm not even want to hear any stories. It's more of, it's really nice to hear that because it focuses on the music, and because of that, it's ingrained me as a enjoy you even more, and you being an Anthrax re-encouraged me. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't really listen as much to Armored Saint because there's so many bands back then. I was in high school at the same time, and Armored Saint, Metallica, all them, and there's just so much out there. And like, I actually have gone back through Anthrax to revisit your Armored Saint stuff. You know,
yeah.
and now Armored Saints moved up to be up there with my Metallica and everything else. Like it's, I always say it's my gateway drug, but like that was my thing that kind of revitalized me and reminded me. I'm like, God, I haven't listened to Armored Saint in a while, and
Well,
that was when you were doing Anthrax.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty is you can always go back and listen to those records and check them out. And even if you missed them when they came out, you know, they're still there. As a matter of fact, Megaforce has re-released those first three records I did in Anthrax, which I'm extremely grateful for. And I'm stoked about it. And because there was a time when they weren't available because of the way the
Yeah.
deal worked out with Elektra. And then you have to relicense them. And if you don't, they're going to sell through and there won't be anything there. And the same with Volume 8, that was a real big debacle. And the label went belly up, and so we were able to get those back out. And kudos to Missy for making that happen at Megaforce. And you know, I've seen some royalty checks lately, and it's like cool. You know, it's just again, it's not really about the money per se. It's more about
Yeah,
just
but a
like
royalty check at this point is like seeing a unicorn. I mean, you're
it,
pretty lucky.
well, and what I'm happy about is it just shows that it's out there and people have listened to it and people are purchasing it. And that's all when I would go to Amoeba Records, which is a big record store here in LA, and I
Yep.
would look, you know, I look through Anthrax's, bin there, and I could never find any of the records I made. It was really a disappointment, and I think it was because they weren't available. They literally were not available, and that was frustrating. So my whole thing is like, look, if somebody wants to by spreading the disease over white noise, that's whatever. But I mean, can at least be there as a possibility that somebody wants to buy it? Is that asking too much? No. So I'm happy about what they've done with that. And, again, those records people can go back and get listened to as they could to, Delirious Nomad and, Raising Fear. So.
At one point, you actually had there's a little bit of downtime between albums, and I think Anthrax was probably before you guys reformed, right? Was there a couple of years in between? Like after the,
Well, there was a downtime around '99. That's when Scott and Charlie made the SOD record.
yeah.
And that's when I kind of started working again with Joey, just really by virtue of just boredom.
Mhm.
He's like, "Hey, do you want to write some songs? I have some riffs." It wasn't like, "Let's do another Saint record." It was more of like, "Do you want to just write?" And I was doing, Anthrax was literally on a hiatus, so I was like, "Yeah, sure. What do you got?" And then it turned out that those are some of the songs that became Revelation, and they were great. Some killer tunes like Pay Dirt and Upon My Departure and Tension, and some really cool songs that it was like, oh, okay. And then it was like, well, let's make a record. We had that. We had a couple old songs. I actually think Upon My Departure was an older song, but songs like After Me the Flood, really cool tunes at that time. So that's when we made Revelation, and it was great. We did a little tour and it was fun, and played the Bakken Festival in Germany. But I was still technically in Anthrax. And that was
Yeah.
it was just a little bit of a side project almost, if you will.
While we're talking about songwriting, what is the songwriting process for you? Because I know you're usually pretty involved, and I mean, obviously you're a singer. Do you play guitar or like hum melodies or write the lyrics? Like, what is your process in the songwriting? I'm always kind of
My abilities as a actual guitar player and bass player and drummer are very limited. I stick to singing because that's what I do best, and work on melodies. And I still love writing lyrics, and I write the bulk of the lyrics in the band, and I always have. And it's still something I yearn to do. I'm open to whatever if anybody has other ideas, but of course I'm the one singing them, so I better believe in them. And
it
that's
does
kind of.
represent you in some level, whether you like it or not. Somebody's going to be like, well, that's his words just come out of his
I
mouth.
mean, well, I'm the ones projecting them, so so I want to believe in what I'm doing,
Right.
and I still feel like I write lyrics pretty well. As a matter of fact, maybe better than ever. Well, at least in my own opinion. But
Oh, that's what I'm saying with the album. I think everything's better than before. It's even one step up.
I just kind of use the world around me as a giant, a canvas to paint on, and there's a lot to sing about. Let's face it, more than ever. So it's fun, and luckily I don't have too many blocks. Things still come to me. I use a thesaurus, and I have a notebook of a bunch of lyrics and phrases, and it's fun. So I focus on that. I let the other guys work on the music part. The last thing I'm going to do is like, go, hey, check out this riff. I could barely play. Why get out of here? So. I believe in Joey and Phil and Jeff in terms of what they can
But
bring.
if you had like, you could, blast out some cowboy chords and different idea to and then have them kind of flesh it out for you. You know what I mean? A lot of people make
I mean,
humming and painting sounds.
it's more about arrangements and stuff like, hey, let's shorten that part. That maybe
Yeah.
instead of let's put the B section back there. It would be more about arrangements that I would throw my 2 cents into. But I love writing music. I love still writing songs, and it's awesome. It's a fun thing to do, and you know, it's just your expression as an artist. Not to get too snobby about it, but it's the truth. So
Yeah,
it's
it's a music show. You're talking about music. And one of the questions, you've done some side stuff and you sing over the, with other people and you've done a lot of different projects. So I was a question about your songwriting. If you would ever do anything on your own, like you'd head up maybe like a John Bush album and have different players on it to like, you know what I mean? And do like a little tour or like a little
yeah.
travel band just for fun, not to tour the world.
Somebody just asked me about that again recently. I used to laugh when I thought of John Bush solo record, but I'm a little bit more open to it at this point. I have talked about it numerous times recently in the press about doing this kind of solo thing, doing the Anthrax albums that I did, because those guys don't play those songs, and that's
Hmm.
something I'm certainly open to. And time is slightly of the essence because I ain't getting any younger. So I mean, it's like I don't want to do this when I'm like, get me out there on stage. I mean, belt out, room for one more. Unfortunately, it's just the reality of
Yeah.
how old I am, like when I started. So I'd rather, can I sing Rain of Fire when I'm 68? Hopefully, but I don't know. So to me, there's a certain urgency in it, and which I think is a good thing, because it kind of makes you feel like you got to move and you got to get on it, even though touring is a struggle right now for everybody.
You're right.
But yeah, so I'm open to that. And I don't know. I'm open to things that I was not maybe open to 5 years, 10 years ago, just because I just am. So we'll
Well,
see. I don't know.
like back in the day though, a solo project almost feels like it was kind of like a lead singer disease thing. Oh, I'm gonna have a solo band. But now it's not about that.
Guitar
It's
players
like,
have them too.
it's what?
I said guitar players have them too.
Exactly. That's the exact same thing. And they have the instrumentals and I get the joke there.
Actually, Jeff
um,
Lynne made an awesome instrumental record. His last solo thing was amazing, really over the top. I was real
which
proud.
is exactly what I'm saying. You can do a solo thing from your band and have just a little different of a sound to it, or you know, write a couple different songs that you haven't done to anybody and throw it on, and then also do a couple other songs with all the different bands and projects you were on that people would haven't heard.
Right.
Just
It's just
for fun.
it's just within reason of what I want to do. I think that's the thing. Like I'm open to it. But what do I want to do? Like I made the joke the other day in the interview with Blabbermouth. Like I love old school R&B and soul, but does anyone want to hear John Bush singing that? Probably not. So the reality is, it's got to be something that's still rock and roll and hard rock and maybe metal, or I don't know yet. And that's the big question mark. But if I can make something work and it feels right and the timing is right, I'm certainly open to it, because I don't know. It could just be another extension of what I do.
I think that'd be awesome.
Thanks.
It'd be super fun. I mean, I'd love to hear it. I'd be there for that.
Thanks.
So at this point with COVID, what are you guys planning on now doing? Like, as far as try touring a little bit, or how you gonna balance it out, or waiting it
We have a
out?
tour. Well, we have a tour planned in 22. It's in the later part of 22, like starting in fall, which is crazy because we're only in December. So it sounds like a long time away.
Not
Um,
really. Not to me with this COVID.
Yeah, we're supporting a band who's going to be doing a tour. It's going to be real fun because they haven't toured in a long time, and I can't say who it is because it's their tour and we're the opening group. So I'm going to
Of course.
let them say it first, and then I'll talk about it, and hopefully that'll come to fruition. Like I guess in January, they were supposed to announce it right around now. Now it's going to be pushed to January, but that's going to be exciting. It's going to be in the States, and it's probably going to be a pretty substantial tour, like 4 to 6 weeks. And it'll be fun. I think old school fans they're going to go, this is going to be great. We had dates with Black Label Society it was only 5 shows that they did a tour, and then they added 5 dates at the end of the year on the West Coast. When it was
Mhm.
LA, SF, San Diego, Phoenix, and Reno. And then those dates just got canceled about a month ago, which is super disappointing because we're going to play the Wiltern, which I love that theater in LA. It's a great venue. I go there all the time. And I've seen awesome shows there, from Tool to, Fiona Apple, whatever. So it's a great venue, and I was excited about playing it, but it got canceled. I guess they were, I don't know. I don't know what the real reasons are, other than maybe ticket sales were kind of light and the dates were in this precarious time. So they said between Christmas and New Year's. I mean, I don't know. I don't agree with that, because I think that's a good time for bands to play, because people aren't working and they're like, let's go to another show tonight. They're thinking New Year's even on the 28th. So, but hey, again, we were the support act and we were at the mercy of them pulling the plug
I
on it.
think bands right now got to kind of sneak it under the wire before everything starts getting crazy again. And
Yeah,
it's
I
flu
don't.
season too. So
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know Europe is in a real kind of sticky position, and that's probably quite making a lot of tours uh, really in a delicate position if they're going to happen in Europe. I hope it happens. I can't wait to go back to Europe. I love Europe. I love Sane has got a great vibe in Europe. I want to go there, but I don't know. Like the truth of the matter is, this stuff's way out of my hands. Like there's nothing I can do. If promoters are unwilling to do shows, or if I've heard rumblings that a lot of hard rock metal shows are actually the ones struggling in particular markets because of maybe metalheads don't want to be vaccinated and they're resistant to that. And hey, to each his own. Whatever those people feel, if that's what they feel like, I can't. I'm not going to judge them on it at all. But if it's affecting ticket sales and shows, which I had heard that it was in certain
yeah,
places, then that's disappointing because then you can't play. So I don't know. This is, like I said, these are things that are way out of my control. I'm just optimistic and hoping for the best.
well, it's good. It's good. You guys are keep releasing stuff too, so it's good for at least for the fans.
At least we got some records out.
That's right. That's awesome. I'm going to encourage you to go to your website and check out the music. I want to thank you. I had one question you kind of came up with. If you could name your top 5 albums off the top of your head, because you just mentioned R&B, and it's kind of interesting to hear, like, not just the normal Metallica, you know what I mean? Just like, would you throw out your top 5-ish, some of your favorite albums, like name like a
Well,
handful of
yeah.
them.
How about just for the time being? Because I can't.
Right now, yeah, okay.
After that, I'm like, come on. If I can't name my five, but I can say what they are now.
All right.
So, um, uh, okay, so like Temple of the Dog, something I
Yeah.
listened to recently again. Um, the Inner Visions, by Stevie Wonder is, gonna be a legendary
Yeah.
record always. We'll see what else. Yeah, let's see. Jailbreak, I think Lizzie is just always such a classic album. Let's see. Well, I just bought a couple records. The last Sturgill Simpson record is really cool. I just purchased that. So I don't know about favorite records, but it's up, it's cool.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
listening to it. Um, uh, and let me think of what else I've purchased or listened to lately. I just went to the record store the other day, although it was stupid Barnes and Nobles and their selection is like
Oh,
this
so
big, but I was buying
expensive.
books. So I was like, let me just get some CDs. Um, what else? Give me a second. Let me just try to think off the top of my head of what else I was listening to. Oh, how about the Suite, Desolation Boulevard? That's like one of my
Okay,
favorite
great.
records. Yeah. So
That's
that's
cool.
just that's just lately.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone likes to know, like, what influences or what is the artist they listen to, and you kind
Yeah,
of
I've
always
been
can go back and do
listening
deep
to a lot of
dives.
yeah,
You
I've
know,
been listening to a lot of like outlaw country on Sirius satellite radio. I think there's some really cool stuff there, and I love old school country, and I've been kind of getting into that lately. I'm always going to be a big fan of jazz. Um, you know, Blues. I've been getting into blues, like Chris Stone Kingfish. That guy's awesome.
he's
Really,
ridiculous.
really cool. There's so many great artists, and I want to listen to new artists. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go see the band the Black Pumas tonight. Actually, they're a killer band. The awesome singer. Kind of new school R&B, but not R&B like in crappy pop radio. Like those guys are great. They can write songs. It sounds like a throwback vibe. A killer band. I'm going to go see them tonight at YouTube Theater. So that's going to be really fun because I saw them at the Regent, which Armored Saint was the last time we played in LA. It was at the Regent in LA. And it's a great venue. And they're cool. So I asked my wife, let's go to a show. We're going tonight. When she goes, who? I go, Black Puma. She goes, all right. So I bought tickets and like, now we're going. So
Sweet.
I want to contribute to my industry. That's why I buy records and buy CDs and buy vinyl and go to shows and pay for tickets because I need to give back to this industry of mine.
Well, that's good support for that, because I mean that's what the show's about, supporting you guys. I mean, the industry has to keep supporting the industry right now, especially during the tough times. Otherwise, there won't be anything. You know.
Yeah, I know people like, I don't know, remember the last time I bought a record, musicians, I'm like, what? I want to slap them in the head. Like, of course you should be buying records of people, and that's what you do. So it pisses me
Right.
off. I don't know how there's this world that came up where people think that they don't need to buy albums anymore. That really pisses me off. Like, how do you think these are going to continue to be made if you don't buy them? It's lame. It's ridiculous. So
Well, it's hard if an artist gets mad if somebody takes their music for free online and then they take free music that's given to them.
Right. Well, I still like buying CDs, just because I need something aesthetic. Well, not this mouse, but
Yeah.
I need something that I look at the credits maybe once. I look at the lyrics maybe once, but it's still the product. I check
You
out the
can still read the
cover.
lyrics in a CD. Good for you, man.
Well, I
I
try.
need a vinyl album. Big lyrics, big
Yeah,
print, like the
I
deck of
love
cards, big print.
I love nothing beats vinyl. I love vinyl, and that to me that's the best. It's the product and the cover and the sleeve. And it's just
Yep.
all awesome.
The
But
smell, if it's not a used record, it says good.
and nothing sounds better than vinyl. I think it still
Yep.
sounds, as long as it's not scratched, of course. And I don't even have a great player, but it's still just putting the needle on. That's why Spin the Back Circle, the Pearl Jam song, was such a cool tune because
It
it's
is.
all about that.
That's awesome. All right, man. I want to thank you and tell everybody check out your website and check out your new music and your old stuff and the re-releases too.
Thanks a lot, dude. Happy holidays. Stay safe, and thanks for all the support. Totally appreciate it.